when, and I guess I'm thinking sort of lately for you, or maybe in the past few years in your writing life, like when does writing feel the most solitary to you, and when does it feel the most communal, like that?
Explain what you mean by solitary.
Solitary, I don't know. Like, I guess, yeah, maybe that's too much of a leading question or an abstract one. I think that a lot of writers that I've known, at times they'll sort of go like almost through like a wave. At times they'll feel like what they're working on, they're sort of alone in what it is that they're working on, and then at other times they'll feel like maybe the pieces that they're working on either connect to physical writing community, or maybe communities of like lineage, or to like other writers that they feel they're very connected to.
Well, first, I never really feel alone in my writing. This is gonna sound so crazy, because I'm married to my writing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm so married to my writing. It's probably why I can't be happy in a relationship, because I want the men in my life to make me feel like writing does. And one of my mentors told me to stop having that expectation. That's why I'm not happy in any of my relationships, because it's unrealistic. But as of recently, James Madison University houses the Furious Flower Institute of African American poetry. I first went to James Madison in 2004. Encouraged by Miss Clifton, and that totally changed my life. I met many of the writers I suggested that people explore today, and that place is almost hollow to ground. So when I returned this summer, it's just, and particularly this summer's seminar focused exclusively on the work of Lucille Clifton. So everyone that came to the seminar was into metaphysical poetry. Everybody that came to the seminar was into a sense of spirituality within the poetry. Everyone that came to the seminar was expecting and exhibited a sense of nurturing, because that is exhibited in her poetry. So
what an amazing experience. Yeah.
Right. And then it was only 15 of us. So it definitely became hollow ground again. And I mean, you're in the Blue Mountains of Virginia. I mean, it's gorgeous. You know, and most people know I'm not really a nature person, but when I'm there, the elements of bugs and dew and wet grass, they don't seem to bother me. I feel really at peace.
That's great.
There.
That's great.
Probably almost as much as I feel at peace when I'm in Bermuda or near water.
Do you so you had mentioned to me your family comes from Bermuda, or part of your family, your mother's side of your family. Do you how often do you get to travel to Bermuda?
At least once a year.
Oh, that's great. Is it?
Yeah.
Do you do a lot of writing on your visits, or is it more reduced?
I do.
Oh, is there something different about the work or writing, or the experience of writing when you're in Bermuda compared to your experience in the U.S.? Or
well, one thing that I appreciate is Bermuda's only 2 miles by 22 miles, so it gives you a real sense of space. And anywhere that you stand on the island, if a building or a tree is not in the way, you can see water.
Oh wow! I mean, I'm feeling such sympathy for you. I mean, like moving from these coastal places and not just coastal places, but as you said, like where you are physically able to walk to the body of water. Now, that's different. That's different from just living in. Like for example, I don't know, like my family's from the Northwest. There's a difference between just living in Seattle or living in Seattle near the water, and it sounds like you've lived near the water, and I bet Bermuda is just. Like a balm for you to get to go back there. So
yeah, it really is.
So do you have, what's your process like when you're in Bermuda? Like, when do you write there?
For one, it's a very spiritual process. I always call my maternal grandmother, she was like the prototype for Christ. I think God saw her and said, I'm going to make a son in my image. But her and my grandfather, she was also very insightful. She met my grandfather at 13, and the way her story goes is that he walked past her in the classroom and flipped her ponytail, and at that moment God whispered that he would be her husband.
Whoa.
Yes. So they were very, very spiritually connected. My grandfather was a minister as well, but of course when they met, he was in no way, shape, or form interested in the ministry. But he built the house that my family lives in and that I stay in when I go there. And it's beautiful, and it's on a private beach that I've swam in, all of my life, that my mother learned to swim in. So it's very much a place of heritage for me. But the most beautiful place in the house is probably in the late 80s. My grandmother told my grandfather that she wanted a prayer room, and he built a prayer room for her onto the house. And that is by far my favorite space in the house. So I like to sit there and write, or I sit out on the deck and look at the ocean and write, or I go sit off on a rock. Because there's beach in Bermuda, but the span of beach is nothing like the coast here because it's just so limited space. So you may have like 10, 12 feet of patch of sand.
That's it. Yeah.
And then the rest is rock because, it's black rock. It's an island, reef. So there, and that particular beach still is just so full of life. Like, if you're in a grassy part of that beach, there are seahorses and sea urchins there within your hands. So just having that sense of life around you, and things that are portrayed as almost mystical for us here on this continent are very much a part of your reality there. Like, we rarely eat fish that's not pulled directly out of the ocean.
Right, like right there. Just like immediately.
Yeah, like immediately or within hours.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Well, it just sounds like a wonderful place. Are you going to go back?
I'm planning
summer,
to go for Christmas.
Oh, that's great. What a great time of year. I'd like to go as well. So.
I've actually started a novel about Bermuda. Bermuda doesn't have any indigenous people. Everybody that lives in Bermuda is a descendant of somebody that was brought there. And because of its size, slavery was very, very different there. For one, their slavery was an indentured servitude of 7 years. And most of the slave trade was amber diving, pearl diving, fishing, boat repair. Just different because there are no huge plantations. So it was a different form of slavery. Also, they were very, very afraid of some of the uprisings that they had seen in the other Caribbean islands because it's so small. So there was a different level of negotiation and respect. They also imported people. You weren't allowed to import two of the same slaves. So every African slave that you brought in, you had to bring in an Indian slave.
Interesting.
To keep the races balanced between white, black, and Indian. It didn't work. Everybody just mixed. But that was the sentiment. So there's a different sense of people, I think, there. And a different sense of race than I experience here in the United States. Because my father's people, they're from the largest plantation in North Carolina. So it's his tales of slavery. Like, my mother didn't even have tales of slavery. Like, I literally had to research what slavery was like. And they're still an English colony, so by 1820, slavery was outlawed. Period. So it's just a different sense of identity. And also in a post-colonial concept, because they're still a colony and they benefit from being a colony.
That's really interesting. That's very interesting to me. Like, just that time. I'm looking forward to your novel. Keep working on your novel. That's all of them. How many are you working on? Like,
I'm only working on the Kansas one now. I had to drop the one not drop it, but it's stagnant. The one from Bermuda, because I realize I have to be there
in the place. That's what's going to be a question of mine. If it might not be more productive to be there, I could.
And that is, in my opinion, far more surreal than a lot of my historical fiction, because that one definitely came out of a dream. Okay. That one came out of a dream. So I have 3 chapters of it so far, but I physically need to be there, and I need to inhabit, understand. Like, this is gonna sound. I need to eat some of the dirt on different parts